There is a certain moment that happens quietly in long-term love. It is not dramatic, and it is rarely spoken about. It arrives without announcement. One day, you look into your partner's eyes and realize that the gaze looking back at you already knows who you are. Not the version you show the world. Not the version you perform when you are strong or confident, but the version that exists when you are tired, uncertain, vulnerable, and unguarded. This is the deeply familiar gaze of a long-term partner. It does not search your face for answers. It does not study you with curiosity or intensity. It simply rests on you, as if it has found something it recognizes. Psychology tells us that recognition is different from attention. Attention looks outward. Recognition feels inward. It reaches something deeper than surface traits or momentary emotions. When a long-term partner looks at you, their gaze often carries years of shared experience. It holds memory. It holds history. It holds understanding that no longer needs to be proven. This gaze feels different because it is shaped by time. In the early stages of a relationship, eye contact is often charged with excitement. There is curiosity, anticipation, and a desire to be seen in a particular way. The eyes search for reassurance, attraction, and validation. But as a relationship matures, something subtle begins to change. The gaze softens. It becomes less about being chosen and more about being known. Psychologically, this shift reflects a transition from external validation to internal safety. The nervous system no longer needs constant confirmation. It has learned, through repetition, that this presence is stable. Stability changes how the brain processes connection. The brain begins to associate the partner's face with predictability. Predictability reduces threat. Reduced threat allows relaxation. Relaxation is where intimacy deepens. The deeply familiar gaze often feels calming because it signals that nothing needs to be managed in that moment. There is no performance required, no impression to maintain. You are allowed to simply exist. This kind of eye contact carries an unspoken message. I have seen you before. I have seen you change. And I am still here. Psychology suggests that long-term bonds rewire how we experience closeness. The brain no longer reacts with heightened alertness. Instead, it responds with ease. Ease is not boredom. Ease is safety. And safety is one of the deepest forms of love. When a partner's gaze feels familiar, it often means that emotional defenses have slowly been laid down over time. Each shared experience has added a layer of trust. Trust does not arrive all at once. It accumulates quietly. It builds through ordinary moments, through shared mornings, through disagreements that did not end the relationship, through apologies that were given and received. All of these moments leave traces in the eyes. The gaze of a long-term partner carries emotional memory. It remembers who you were during difficult seasons. It remembers how you coped, how you struggled, how you healed. Being seen by someone who remembers your past without holding it against you creates a powerful sense of emotional security. Psychologically, this security allows the self to soften. When we feel secure, we stop bracing for loss. We stop preparing for rejection. We stop anticipating abandonment. The deeply familiar gaze does not feel like evaluation. It feels like acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is different from approval. Approval can be withdrawn. Acknowledgement simply recognizes what already exists. This is why the gaze of a long-term partner can feel grounding during moments of self-doubt. It reflects a version of you that has already been accepted. In that gaze, there is often patience. Patience that has learned your rhythms, your moods, your patterns. Patience that understands when silence means fatigue, not distance. Psychology explains that emotional attunement develops over time. Long-term partners begin to read each other with fewer cues. A look becomes enough. This efficiency is not a lack of effort. It is the result of deep emotional learning. The familiar gaze often communicates without words. Concern, reassurance, humor, understanding. This wordless communication reduces emotional friction. It saves energy. It allows connection to flow more easily. When eye contact becomes familiar, It no longer demands intensity to feel meaningful. It becomes gentle, and gentleness is often underestimated in love. Gentle connection does not overwhelm the nervous system. It calms it. The brain associates this calm with safety. Safety reinforces attachment. Attachment, when secure, does not feel desperate. It feels steady. The deeply familiar gaze reflects this steadiness. It does not rush. It does not chase. It does not cling. It stays. Staying is one of the most powerful signals of love the human brain can receive. Psychology tells us that consistency is more impactful than intensity when it comes to emotional bonds. The gaze of a long-term partner is consistent. It shows up on ordinary days, on difficult days, on days when nothing special is happening. This regularity builds emotional trust. Trust allows vulnerability to emerge naturally. When someone looks at you with familiarity, vulnerability feels less risky. You are not revealing yourself to a stranger. You are sharing yourself with someone who already knows. This reduces emotional fear. Fear often blocks intimacy. Familiarity dissolves it. The deeply familiar gaze also reflects shared identity. Not sameness, but alignment. Two people who have chosen to walk alongside each other without losing themselves. This choice, repeated over time, becomes visible in the eyes. There is a quiet confidence in that gaze. A confidence that does not need to prove love, because love has already been demonstrated. Psychologically, this confidence creates emotional rest. The mind does not need to analyze every interaction. The body does not need to remain alert. There is space to breathe. In a world that constantly demands explanation, productivity, and performance, the gaze of a long-term partner offers a rare pause. A moment where you are not required to be anything other than human. This is not the absence of passion. It is the presence of depth. And depth takes time. The deeply familiar gaze is shaped by years of showing up, even when it was difficult. By staying present during conflict. By returning after distance. By choosing connection again and again. This gaze is not loud. It does not announce itself. But when you recognize it, you feel it. It feels like home. As time passes in a long-term relationship, the gaze between partners begins to change not because love fades, but because the nervous system learns something important. It learns that this connection is not temporary. Psychology explains that the human nervous system is always asking one quiet question. Is this safe to rely on? In the early stages of love, the answer is uncertain. That uncertainty creates excitement, intensity, and heightened attention. The body stays alert, scanning for signals of acceptance or rejection. But in long-term partnership, when care has been consistent, the nervous system slowly updates its answer. Yes, this is safe. This update changes everything. The gaze of a long-term partner begins to reflect regulation rather than vigilance. It is no longer sharp with anticipation. It becomes steady with familiarity. This steadiness is not indifference. It is trust embodied. Psychologically, trust is not a belief. It is a state of the nervous system. When trust is present, the body no longer prepares for loss at every moment. It allows closeness without bracing. The deeply familiar gaze carries this relaxed presence. It does not look for signs of abandonment. It does not test love. It assumes continuity. This assumption is built through countless small confirmations. Each time your partner returned, each time they stayed during difficulty, each time they chose repair instead of withdrawal. These moments train the nervous system. They teach it that connection does not disappear at the first sign of imperfection. Over time, this learning becomes visible in the eyes. The gaze softens because the body no longer needs to defend itself. Psychology refers to this as secure attachment. Secure attachment is not dramatic. It is calm. It does not demand reassurance constantly. It does not fear closeness or independence. It allows both. The gaze of a securely attached partner reflects this balance. It is present without pressure. It allows space without distance. This balance creates emotional safety. Emotional safety is what allows people to be fully themselves in relationship. Without emotional safety, intimacy becomes performance. With safety, intimacy becomes presence. The deeply familiar gaze supports presence. It does not rush conversation. It does not interrupt emotion. It does not demand resolution. It simply stays. Staying during emotion is one of the strongest signals of trust the human brain can receive. When someone stays with you while you are sad, frustrated, or quiet, the nervous system learns that emotion does not threaten connection. This learning reduces emotional suppression. You no longer need to hide parts of yourself to be loved. The familiar gaze often communicates this message silently. You don't need to disappear for me to stay. Psychology shows that many people learned early in life that expressing emotion could lead to disconnection. As a result, they learn to manage themselves carefully. In long-term partnership, a consistent, accepting gaze can slowly undo this belief. Each moment of being seen without consequence rewrites emotional memory. The gaze becomes a signal of permission. Permission to feel. Permission to rest. Permission to be imperfect. This permission is deeply regulating. When the nervous system feels permission, it stops resisting experience. Resistance is exhausting. The familiar gaze reduces that exhaustion. It offers a kind of emotional exhale. Psychologically, this exhale allows deeper layers of self to emerge. Parts that were once hidden begin to surface. This deepens intimacy. Intimacy in long-term partnership is not about novelty. It is about access. Access to the inner world of another person. The gaze becomes one of the main access points. A long-term partner's eyes often know when something is wrong before words appear. This is not mind reading. It is attunement. Attunement develops through repeated emotional exchanges. Each time one partner responded accurately to the other's emotional state, attunement strengthened. Over time, attunement becomes intuitive. The gaze reflects this intuition. It responds rather than reacts. It listens rather than interrogates. Psychology explains that emotional attunement reduces misunderstandings. When people feel understood, they become less defensive. Less defensiveness leads to more openness. Openness deepens trust. Trust reinforces familiarity. This cycle continues quietly over years. The deeply familiar gaze is often most noticeable during silence. Silence with a stranger can feel awkward. Silence with a new partner can feel uncertain. But silence with a long-term partner often feels full. It feels inhabited. Psychologically, this is because silence no longer threatens connection. The gaze holds the relationship during quiet moments. It says, "We are still here, even without words." This reassurance allows silence to be restorative rather than stressful. The nervous system does not rush to fill space. It rests in it. Rest is essential for emotional health. Long-term partnership, when healthy, becomes a place of emotional rest. The gaze plays a central role in creating this space. It slows interactions. It reduces urgency. It signals that there is time. Time to feel. Time to process. Time to simply be. The deeply familiar gaze also reflects shared resilience. It has survived stress, change, and uncertainty. It has adapted. Adaptation is a key psychological marker of healthy long-term bonds. Rigid connections break under pressure. Adaptive ones bend and recover. The gaze of a long-term partner often carries this flexibility. It can hold joy and sorrow without collapsing. It can witness change without panic. This capacity builds emotional confidence. You trust not only the person, but the relationship itself. This trust reduces anxiety about the future. The gaze no longer asks, "Will you leave?" It says, "We will figure this out." Psychologically, this shift reduces anticipatory fear. Fear consumes emotional energy. When fear reduces, love has more space to grow. The deeply familiar gaze also carries emotional memory of repair. Repair moments matter more than conflict itself. Each time a rupture was followed by reconnection, the relationship strengthened. The eyes remember this. They remember that disconnection was not the end. This memory creates emotional resilience. The gaze during disagreement often remains softer in long-term partnership. It may show frustration, but not contempt. Contempt erodes trust. Familiarity softens it. The gaze says, I am upset, but I am still connected. This distinction is crucial. Psychology shows that relationships fail not because of conflict, but because of emotional withdrawal. The deeply familiar gaze resists withdrawal. It stays engaged. Engagement preserves connection. Connection preserves trust. Trust allows love to mature. Mature love is quieter. It does not demand attention. It does not need constant validation. It is expressed through presence. And presence is most clearly felt through the eyes. In long-term partnership, love is not only revealed in moments of harmony, it is also revealed in moments of strain. And during these moments, the gaze changes again. Conflict alters energy. Emotions rise. Defenses activate. Words become sharper or quieter. But even then, the gaze of a long-term partner often carries something familiar. It may not be soft in those moments. It may hold frustration or fatigue. But beneath it, there is still recognition. Psychology explains that what protects relationships during conflict is not the absence of disagreement, but the presence of connection underneath it. The deeply familiar gaze often preserves that connection. Even when voice is tense, the eyes may still say, "You are not my enemy." This subtle signal matters more than we realize. The nervous system is highly sensitive during conflict. It looks for signs of threat or safety. When the gaze remains engaged rather than avoidant, the body feels less abandoned. Avoidance during conflict triggers deeper fear than disagreement itself. The familiar gaze resists avoidance. It stays. Staying does not mean agreeing. It means remaining emotionally present. Presence during conflict allows repair to remain possible. Psychology shows that repair is what restores trust after rupture. Repair does not require perfect words. Often, it begins with eye contact. A moment of shared gaze can soften rigid positions. It can slow the nervous system enough to allow listening again. The eyes carry emotional intention more honestly than speech during tension. A familiar gaze during conflict often reflects restraint. Restraint says, "I could withdraw, but I choose not to." This choice is felt deeply. Over time, these choices accumulate. They teach the nervous system that conflict does not equal loss. This learning is essential for emotional safety. Without it, love becomes fragile. With it, love becomes resilient. The deeply familiar gaze also plays a role in forgiveness. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is releasing the need to punish. Punishment keeps relationships stuck in the past. Forgiveness allows movement forward. The eyes often express forgiveness before the mind articulates it. A softened gaze after hurt communicates willingness to reconnect. This willingness is healing. Psychologically, forgiveness reduces emotional load. Carrying unresolved resentment taxes the nervous system. The familiar gaze helps lighten that weight. It reflects acceptance of imperfection. Long-term partnership inevitably involves disappointment. The deeply familiar gaze acknowledges disappointment without defining the person by it. This distinction is crucial. Psychology emphasizes that secure bonds separate behavior from identity. "You hurt me" is different from "you are the hurt." The gaze of a long-term partner often communicates this separation. It may reflect pain, but not rejection. This allows accountability without abandonment. Accountability strengthens trust. Trust allows mistakes to become learning rather than threats. The deeply familiar gaze also holds space during emotional withdrawal. There are seasons when one partner feels distant, overwhelmed, or quiet. Distance can trigger fear in relationships, but familiarity changes how distance is interpreted. The gaze becomes an anchor. Even when words are few, eye contact reassures connection. It says, "I'm still here, even if I'm not fully available right now." This reassurance prevents emotional panic. Psychology shows that emotional panic often leads to reactive behavior. Reactivity damages connection. The familiar gaze helps prevent this spiral. It stabilizes the emotional field. Stability allows patience. Patience allows space for healing. Hard seasons test long-term relationships. Stress, loss, illness, career changes, and personal growth can all strain connection. During these times, love often becomes quieter, less expressive, more internal. The gaze carries what words cannot. It reflects shared endurance. Endurance is an underrated form of love. Psychologically, endurance builds deep trust. Knowing someone will remain through hardship changes how the brain experiences connection. The gaze during hardship often feels heavier, slower, more deliberate. It may hold exhaustion. It may hold grief, but it also holds solidarity. Solidarity tells the nervous system, you are not alone in this. This message reduces emotional isolation. Isolation intensifies pain. Shared presence eases it. The deeply familiar gaze becomes especially meaningful during moments of vulnerability, illness, aging, failure, fear. In these moments, there is little to perform. The gaze reflects unconditional presence, presence without expectation. This kind of presence is deeply healing. Psychology explains that healing occurs when emotions are allowed without judgment. The gaze that accepts without trying to fix creates this environment. It allows feelings to move through rather than get stuck. Stuck emotions harden into distance. Movement restores connection. The familiar gaze also evolves as partners age together. Faces change. Bodies change. Energy shifts. Attraction transforms. But recognition remains. The gaze begins to carry shared history more than physical evaluation. This shift can feel unsettling in a culture that prioritizes novelty. But psychologically, it represents depth. Depth is not loud. It is stable. The gaze of a long-term partner often reflects gratitude. Gratitude for having been witnessed, for having been chosen repeatedly. This gratitude is quiet but profound. Psychology suggests that gratitude strengthens relational bonds. It shifts focus from what is missing to what is present. The familiar gaze often communicates appreciation without words. A look that says, I see everything you've been. This recognition strengthens emotional intimacy. Intimacy in long-term partnership becomes less about discovery and more about continuity. Continuity builds meaning. Meaning deepens attachment. The gaze becomes a reminder of shared life. Not just shared moments, but shared becoming. Two people growing alongside each other. Witnessing transformation. Accepting change. This acceptance reduces fear of growth. You do not have to stay the same to remain loved. The familiar gaze allows evolution. Psychology explains that relationships that allow growth remain alive. The gaze adapts as the people do. It remains curious, but not anxious. Engaged, but not demanding. This balance sustains love. Over time, the deeply familiar gaze becomes a form of emotional shelter. A place where the mind rests when the world feels heavy. A place where the self is not questioned, only held. As years pass, the gaze between long-term partners continues to evolve. It carries less urgency and more meaning. Less intensity, more depth. What once searched now simply arrives. Aging together changes how love is expressed. The body slows. Priorities shift. The future feels closer and farther at the same time. And through all of this, the gaze remains. Psychology explains that as people age, the need for emotional safety increases. Novelty becomes less important than stability. Excitement gives way to reassurance. The deeply familiar gaze meets this need quietly. It reflects shared survival. It says, we made it through uncertainty, through change, through versions of ourselves that no longer exist. The eyes of a long-term partner begin to carry legacy. They have witnessed who you were becoming, not just who you are now. This witnessing creates a profound sense of continuity. Continuity grounds identity. When someone has seen you across decades, your sense of self becomes less fragile. You are not defined by a single moment or phase. The familiar gaze holds all versions of you at once. Psychologically, this integration strengthens self-acceptance. Self-acceptance reduces internal conflict. Reduced conflict creates inner peace. The gaze of a long-term partner often feels like home because it requires no explanation. Home is where you do not need to justify your presence. You simply belong. Belonging is one of the deepest human needs. Eye contact that communicates belonging nourishes the nervous system. It tells the body, you are anchored. This anchoring becomes increasingly important as the world changes. Careers end. Roles shift. Friends come and go. Bodies age. But the familiar gaze remains a constant. Psychology suggests that long-term emotional bonds act as stabilizers during life transitions. They provide continuity when external structures fall away. The gaze becomes a reminder of shared meaning. Meaning does not come from intensity. It comes from endurance. From having lived alongside another person long enough to know their silences as well as their stories. The deeply familiar gaze often reflects gratitude for shared time. Time is the one thing that cannot be replaced. Choosing to share it repeatedly is a profound act of love. This choice becomes visible in the eyes. There is often a softness that comes from having nothing left to prove. No image to maintain. No competition to win. Just presence. Presence is the final form of intimacy. Psychology explains that presence is felt when attention is free of agenda. The gaze of a long-term partner often carries this quality. It looks without needing anything in return. This generosity of attention is rare. It is deeply nourishing. As partners age, the gaze may also carry grief. Grief for lost time, lost possibilities, lost versions of self. But shared grief feels lighter. When grief is witnessed, it does not isolate. The familiar gaze can hold sorrow without trying to erase it. This holding allows healing. Healing does not mean forgetting. It means integrating. The gaze integrates past and present. It reminds both partners that love has expanded to include everything they have lived. This expansion deepens emotional maturity. Emotionally mature love does not demand happiness. It allows reality. The deeply familiar gaze allows reality. It says, this is what life is, and we are still here. Psychologically, this acceptance reduces existential anxiety. You are not facing impermanence alone. The gaze also becomes a mirror of shared identity. Not identity fusion, but shared narrative. A story that includes both individuals. This shared story gives life coherence. Coherence reduces anxiety. The gaze reflects this coherence. It knows where you have been together. It does not need reminders. The deeply familiar gaze also supports letting go of illusions, of idealized versions of love, of unrealistic expectations. What remains is quieter, but more solid. This solidity brings peace. Peace is not the absence of emotion. It is the absence of fear around emotion. The gaze communicates this fearlessness. It allows joy without grasping, sadness without panic, silence without discomfort. Psychology suggests that the ability to tolerate silence is a marker of secure connection. The familiar gaze tolerates silence beautifully. Silence becomes shared breathing, shared being. As life continues, the gaze may become one of the most meaningful exchanges left. Words may fade, energy may wane, but the eyes continue to speak. They speak of having been chosen, of having been witnessed, of having mattered. To matter to someone across time is one of the deepest forms of love. The deeply familiar gaze confirms this meaning daily, often without awareness. It is there in morning glances, in shared meals, in moments of fatigue, in moments of laughter. It does not announce itself, but it remains. Psychologically, this remaining is what creates a sense of life well lived. Connection is remembered more than achievement. The gaze becomes a quiet record of connection. In the end, the deeply familiar gaze of a long-term partner feels like home because it has never required you to leave yourself behind. It has allowed you to become. It has stayed as you changed. It has recognized you again and again. And in that recognition, love has continued to grow. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply, steadily, and truly.